Hello everyone, good morning and welcome to Murphy's Law Garage. Well, we're finally at it. We're going to go ahead and start tearing this truck down. Now, to make it easier to work on the 12 valve, I'm actually going to pull the entire apron off of the truck, since it does us no good to have the apron anyways, and it's taking up space where we could easily work in the engine bay rather than leaning over the top of it. So why don't y'all come along? I'm going to set y'all up on a time lapse. We're going to get the front apron torn off the truck. Woo! Mid old truck teardown. Decided to go ahead and bring y'all in for a status update. Let's go ahead and get you turned around so you can see what we're working with here. All right. As you saw from the time lapse, we are missing a lot of parts. And this is my first time taking apart a second gen. Heck, it's my first time working with a 12 valve, so lots of learning to do here to see how it's different from the 24 valve. The good news is that you saw during the time lapse, there is coolant inside of this motor, and there was a good bit of it. It's very lightly tinged green. It has a little bit of antifreeze in it, but all of the water that came out was very, very clear. No hint of oil or foaming or anything like that, so that's fantastic news. Any concerns I had about the radiator being a little low, I'm not worried about as much anymore. Also, good news on the turbo side. A bit hard to see. I'm still working on getting the intercooler out, but there doesn't appear to be any hints of anything having made it past the turbo into the intercooler piping. You can see that we've got some of that white dusty corrosion that fell in whenever I was playing with the turbo. So the good news with that is that I'm almost positive that the rat that made a nest in here, which there's some remnants of it, huge nest, only managed to pee in the turbo enough to make some corrosion in there. So I plan on putting a new turbo in this truck, but I'm not worried about the turbo having a problem working for the time being. Over here I ran into some corroded bolts that are stuck really well. So this will be what we're moving on to next. Got a lot more stuff, wiring and such, to get out of our way. So I'm gonna go ahead and move on to that in just a second. The time lapse. The intercooler you saw me try to pull out, but interesting choice by Dodge was to very tightly trap it inside of that core support, and there's only one direction it comes out, and that is this way, right at us, with the bumper removed. At least from what I can tell. Maybe y'all can tell me otherwise. But the bumper also has some big, nice, nasty, rusty bolts. So we're gonna move on to that soon. But let's finish getting that other side of the front apron off so that we have more room. For my sanity and record keeping, I'm going to take apart some of this fusible box here, but this wire, which is coming from the main engine harness, I believe is probably the alternator charge wire, is tied down here, and we've got the main battery power tied down here. How y'all like that grounding clamp that someone bought from Lowe's to put that together? That's classy. So some Easter eggs I noticed here. This is either the fuel supply line, most probably, from the mechanical pump down there. I'm not 100% sure. It would seem like it because that metal line, get my finger in here, goes to the filter, focus, and then a smaller line leaves that and heads over to the backside of the motor. That is a return, I believe. That smaller line coming back into the filter, that's a return off of the injectors. This line right here, I believe, is probably fuel in, and it's capped. So we've done some mechanical pump bypassing, I believe. I can't see it very well down there, but here, where are we? There she is. Here is the fuel in with our classy lawnmower fuel filter going into the P-pump. What I liked, I came over here, and here's the AutoZone special filter that they used, the pump I mean. Got this running back into the cab. What's interesting about that is that this is a power, I believe is an accessory power. This is a trigger. This is this is a ground. This is an accessory power. Look at this classy stuff. The constant straight to 12 volt. But you just don't do that. And you see how well this is connected. I mean, it's nice. And this ground, and I believe that's what this is, rather than being strapped to actual ground, was stuck into one of these relay slots. So that's classy too. They have a bit more electronics in here than I expected. We have a booster, actually a vacuum sensor, and it's tied into a major vacuum line that comes up over here and is part of, like we see right here, this is the mechanical vacuum pump. The newer trucks have an electronic vacuum pump. I'm sorry, not electronic. They use power steering, hydraulic, to boost the brakes, whereas this one's actually using a vacuum pump. This is a lot like the Power Stroke in David's Bronco. Uses a mechanical vacuum pump like this. But anyways, we've got a good bit of vacuum going on here. This vacuum line runs up and takes off and goes over there. You can see it heading towards the firewall. That's doing something with the air conditioning. And we even have a sensor here, I'm assuming, to throw a check engine light if vacuum disappears. I am surprised to see a check like this, something to actually check and see if vacuum's being produced. It's interesting. Well, let's get back to pulling some stuff out the way. I feel like this deserves sound. That's a workout. Look, you didn't know I was going the wrong direction either, so don't be yelling at me through the camera. See how much easier that is? The apron is fully pulled off. Got that 12 valve very exposed. It's going to make it easy for us to work on it. When we come back, I'll decide if we're going to move on to possibly pulling the cab. It may not be very easy without having extra hands. Or if we're going to hook some diesel to this 12 valve and try to start it up. It's officially lunchtime. I'm a big boy. Obviously, I'm going to eat with Grandma and Grandpa next door. Catch y'all in a few minutes. All right, so I've decided to go ahead and attempt to start the 12 valve. I'm working on a fuel hose arrangement. Me being a little bit slow today, forgot to bring some fuel hose from my shed. All I could find over here at the shop was this very small 1/4 inch, maybe 5/8 hose, which honestly will fit just fine on our lawnmower fuel filter here. Unfortunately, it won't fit on the feed line of the pump, which, look at this beautiful situation we've got going on right here. I don't know if I can get it to focus on that. There we go. Something's been brazed into this. I don't believe this would have had a hard line from the factory, but I could be wrong. But something has been brazed into the inlet of this. And you can see, bring this on, look at how large that hose is. This is what the actual feed size is supposed to be. It looks like about a 1/2 inch. And look at the size of the filter they were using. I mean, geez, this wouldn't have worked well. But regardless, unfortunately, I'm going to have to use it because my hose will fit this bar, but it will not fit the P-pump. So I'm going to go ahead, hook this back on to the P-pump. I'm going to hook our fuel hose onto this filter. And then I am going to siphon diesel down from up high right there. And I'm hoping that the gravity pressure will be enough for this P-pump to prime and pull fuel. I don't know. I would imagine that this P-pump probably is happy seeing 10-15 psi on the backside, but I'm sure we could get it to turn over and fire with just gravity-fed diesel into it. It may not run well, but it'll run. Well, as you saw there, I got a fine taste of how fantastic of a vintage this red diesel is that came out of the old farm tank over there. Good news is it doesn't burn like the new corn stuff, so not too bad. You see I've got it siphoned over here over the top. We've got a good fuel level. This old piece of fuel hose worries me that it might suck some air in because it's got some cracks in it, but I don't see any diesel leaking out of it. We're tied into our jerry can up there. And now I've got to figure out how I'm going to get some power on this starter. I've got a chassis, motor ground here that looks rough as all can be. And I've got big 12 heading to the starter down there. So I believe this is most probably wires to the starter solenoid. So let me bring the 24 valve around a little closer. I'm going to put a jump pack on this and see if we can poke at this starter and get the motor to lump. And as long as we can get it to turn over, then I'm going to start cracking injectors and see if she'll start up. Alright everyone, so this is it. Behind you is the 24 valve. Got a jumper cable leading from one of the batteries on the pair of batteries on it. Got a donor battery sitting right here connected to the starter. And I've got this green wire where I can touch it to just the right one on here and the motor will turn. Now I've only bumped it, so we're going to go ahead and turn it over for just a little bit so you can hear it turn over. I've already got injector number 1 cracked open, so we're going to hopefully see some fuel start to spit out of it. All right, we've got fuel on injector 1. Got injector 1 shut. Let's open up number 2. At any point, this could decide to try to start and fire. So I'm going to grab a piece of wood in case of a runaway so that we can try and plug the intake here. And this is probably a little too big. Hold on, let me find something. All right, I'm back. Got a piece of wood. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a minute to practice what it would take to block the intake in case the motor tries to run away. And this most probably wouldn't stop the motor if it were trying to run away, but it'll slow the airflow into the motor long enough for me to start cracking injectors open to get the motor to die. This will keep this motor from over revving and ruining itself. So what I would recommend when you're doing something like this, make sure you've got a good flat place on that piece of wood and practice applying it to the intake. So when this thing goes and if it decides to take off, you're only going to have seconds to get this right to stop the airflow into the motor and then start cracking injectors open to shut it down. So I feel pretty good about that. Let me get myself arranged again and then we'll start turning it over and priming some more injectors. All right guys, let's prime up cylinder number 2. Try not to get myself cut by this fan. I'm gonna watch it and see if it starts giving us decent. Cylinder number 2 is giving us some diesel, and you can hear it starting to kick on the first 2 cylinders. We should be able to get it to start when 3 cylinders have primed. I'm opening up number 3 now. Got it nice and loose. I'll put my wrench down and look over the motor so I can see the injector. We're gonna go again. Number 3 is being difficult. Oh, the return line is dripping. We'll put a piece of hose on the return line so we don't drip all over the motor, and leave that down there. Let's turn it over some more. We need number 3 to pick up some diesel. All right, let's open up number 4. Number 3 is dry right now. Like I told y'all in the previous video when we were setting up the jerry can, I'm not sure that just the gravity pressure of that diesel on the backside of the P-pump is enough to feed it. I'm hoping it's enough just to limp it to life, but we may end up having to take that electric lift pump and wire it in to give us, 10-12 pounds on the backside of the pump. Especially if that pump is worn, it may not have enough oomph to get us the pressure we need. All right, sorry guys, y'all are back. Someone tried calling me on my phone. All right, so we're getting a super strong pulse on 6, like squirting up in the air, which is a great sign. It could unfortunately tell us that if only 6 wants to squirt real hard and the rest of them don't want to, that number 6 is the only one that's getting enough fuel to squirt. Let me make sure y'all are still going. Yes, y'all are. I'm going to hand tighten number 6. Try to get it tight enough so that it'll hold some of its diesel. We may come along here on the P-pump side and try to pull an airlock out of these lines. We're also pumping out some transmission fluid. So let me idle the truck for a little bit. I'm to charge the battery back up. I'm going to put y'all on a time lapse and I'm going to seal up those transmission tubes, try to keep us from spilling that oil everywhere. All right, so womp, womp, womp. So the situation we're running into, and it's exactly what I thought it was, the P-pump just can't get enough fuel without pressure on the backside of it to feed all 6 injectors. I can get 3 of them to ooze some fuel at me, I can get one to spit really good like you would expect it to, but not all of them at the same time. I've even got 3 cylinders to hit, and she coughed, even gave me a puff of smoke, and I got real excited and tingly, you know, like you should. But she can't do it. Without that fuel pressure on the backside of the pump, and I'm not sure how much it's expecting to see. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go home tonight, and I'm going to research how much another mechanical pump and some new hard lines to put that mechanical pump back together. I'm going to show you the riggery that happened here. It's pretty epic. Just the whole reason this truck got parked is someone just couldn't figure it out. And what I bet was going on is they thought the mechanical lift pump was bad, but the mechanical lift pump was sucking air bubbles. A real common problem with these second gens is the sending unit, the receiver inside the tank, is made of plastic. It'll develop cracks in the seams of the plastic nipples on top, and it'll suck air from the siphon tube, and it'll just die or run horrible. My 24 valve was doing that, and I actually put a sump on the tank to correct it. So I think that's probably what was actually going on here. So I'm going to decide whether or not I'm going to do mechanical, or if I'm going to do an electronic lift pump on this like the 24 valve has. Most probably mechanical, because if you're going to have a mechanical motor, why introduce a failure like the electric pump? But like I said, a lot of riggery happened here, and people chewed up those hard fuel lines and banjo fittings that previously belonged here. And you can see they've got silicone on compression fittings, obviously trying to chase an air bubble getting into the system and making the truck run poorly. Let me turn the camera around so you can see that. So if we look in here, you can see right here, let me get my finger in front of the camera. Right there, you see that orange? That is some silicone on that compression fitting. And then if we look down in here, you can see the riggery that has happened. Got this fuel line coming from the tank back there, just sitting with a hose clamp on it. We've got another one back here you can just barely see. Right there. Oh, you see that hose clamp down there and that shiny fuel line? That's some more riggery going on. Basically, to make a return loop coming off of the fuel filter housing up here. And you can see what used to be fuel feed is running, I believe to be, is now running around, and they were using that as a return. But the return was actually capped using this. So it was using just the tiny, only one that was able to flow was the tiny little return coming from the injectors, and air was getting locked in here, so I pulled it off. And then they had the fuel from this old fuel pump, which by the way is barely able to move air, let alone blow fuel, which is why this stopped running. If we were to put another one of these little Mr. Gasket, O'Reilly special, AutoZone special fuel pumps on our inline fuel pump and hook it back to this P pump, I could probably get this truck to start. But I don't want to waste money on something that we're not going to use. You can see I've got the fuel filter sitting up here. But anyways, they had this going straight to this guy right here, giving some pressure to the backside of that P pump. And it's tiny, and it isn't right, and it would have never given enough volume to this P pump, so the truck wouldn't have run great. So I'm gonna clean up, guys. I'm gonna go home, do some research. Hopefully those steel lines that they've cut up and destroyed over here, like this guy right here, let's pull that off, ruined. And the one on the P pump as well looks like that. Hopefully those things aren't ridiculously expensive. Maybe I can find those lines used and get a nice shiny new Carter mechanical lift pump for it. A diagram would be nice. So if any of you possibly have anything like that laying around, if you've got some 12 valve parts laying around, hit me up on YouTube or Facebook. But I'm gonna go looking for that stuff, and hopefully I can find it pretty cheap because of the budget. We're real tight on this build. That being said, I would greatly appreciate it, guys. Please share this video. Get it to your friends. I have a Facebook page, Murphy's Law Garage YouTube on Facebook. Please get your friends to come join the channel. If I can get more subscribers, I need 1,000 subscribers to monetize the channel, and then I can start playing advertisements and make some money. The money, I'm not trying to be rich. I'm not trying to drive a bunch of fancy sports cars. that would be fantastic. But what I really want is money to work on these projects. And y'all can come along with me and learn something while I'm working on it and have a good time, you know, just for some entertainment. So go visit us on Facebook, Murphy's Law Garage, YouTube. Visit me on YouTube, Murphy's Law Garage. Please like, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon. Hitting the like is real important. Subscribing is real important. So please, guys, help me out here. Get your friends involved. Let's make this channel great. And see you next time. Peace.